Hey ladies, so fasting, something that really comes up a lot, especially in perimenopause and beyond. How long should we fast for? What are we trying to achieve? So again, fasting really depends on what you're trying to achieve. As we know, if you are still a cycling woman, if you still get your period, we want to fast according to our hormones. Estrogen loves to have low glucose. So, in that time of the month when we want estrogen to peak and we are having a higher dose of it, we are going to fast longer. In the time before our period begins, before our cycle begins, before we start bleeding, we want to try and keep glucose higher, so we fast shorter. Now, the way that we separate this is from day 1 all the way to day 10, we can fast actually quite long. This is a time you can do 15 to 17 hours every day. At the same time, you can also do longer fast, like 3 days. Now, it really depends on your activity level and how you feel, but this is generally what you can do. From 10 to 16, this is during we starting ovulation, you can do between 13 and 15 hours and really just manage a little bit. This is also a time where you can work out harder, you can push a little bit yourself because estrogen and testosterone are quite high. From 17 to 21, again, you can actually go on a longer fast, like the beginning of the cycle, but from 21 to the next cycle, then you're going to fast a little bit shorter time and you're going to start adding a little bit of glucose boosting foods. That is your starches. And when I'm talking about starches, I'm not talking about the junk food, but rather your sweet potatoes, your quinoa, your buckwheat, if you eat rice, whole wheat rice. So, whole grain brown rice. And this is what you are looking for. If it's really, really important to understand how your hormones work so that you can really perform well throughout your cycle. If you're no longer cycling, if you're no longer bleeding, then the way that we approach this is that we do 3 days where we support estrogen, so low glucose, 1 day where we support progesterone. You're going to start adding in a little bit of the starches, and you kind of manage it that way. And then it depends, of course, person by person. So very specialized nutrition where some people might have ailments that they're working on, or you might have metabolic issues that you're working on. Then there is the fact that different fasts actually achieve different things. So I have a nice little guide here that I will share with you that you can download anytime. Basically, you can do a 13 to 15 hours fast, and this is actually a great time thing that you can do every day. This alone will reduce inflammation, but also help you kind of regenerate your brain cells, slow down your mTOR, which means you're actually reversing aging just by fasting between 13 and 15 hours. Well done. 17 hours, this is where we start going into autophagy. So autophagy is the natural cleansing of the cells, right? This is where your cells will start cleaning out, and there is a series of events that will lead to apoptosis, which is basically a cell death. So an old cell that is no longer useful, that can die because it's just done, it's run. And this is really good also for detoxifying the body from cells that perhaps go a little bit off, a little bit array, and we don't want to have into the body. So it's really good for the immune system to actually recognize that. But basically, apoptosis is just a normal cycle, and autophagy is the way that your immune system in the cell will clean out anything that needs to be cleaned out, including the cell itself. Then we're looking at 24 hours. This is where we start looking at stem cell regeneration. So Dr. Walter Longo actually talks about this a lot in his fast mimicking diet, which is why there's an introduction of 24 hours fast here and there to really stimulate this the stem cell generation, but also support GABA. GABA is really important for calming down the nervous system, but also support sleep. So if you're doing 24 hours, then you start seeing these benefits. Then there is a 36 hours fast, which is now where we start going into a more therapeutic approach. At 36 hours, we're looking at people with metabolic issues. Not if you're doing it with type 2 diabetes and type 1 diabetes, this needs to be really looked after by a health professional. So you need to do it with your doctor's supervision, especially if you're on medication, because fasting will reduce your glucose levels. So if you're taking medication on top of it, it can reduce it too much, especially for people that are on medication for type 1 diabetes, because insulin obviously will play a big role. So the adjustment of the values and amounts need to be really observed. If you are metformin, same thing. We need to make sure that you're doing this in a medical setting, okay? Don't just do the 36 hours without supervision. But if you just have, not just, but if you have insulin resistance, or you want to optimize your metabolic switching and your metabolic flexibility, then 36 hours is really great to do, perhaps even once a week. It really depends what you want to achieve, especially if you're looking to lose weight. So this is where you do complete fast for 36 hours. And actually it's not that hard, because it's like a full day, but then overnight sleep, and the next day you can start having food, and just that alone will actually move you into fat burning. So you're actually switching on to ketosis, which sometimes can go a little bit off depending on what you're eating, but also depending on the time of the month. Now, don't do this while you are in that time of the month if you're cycling, when you want to support progesterone. Progesterone does not allow fasting. You can actually lower it even more, which can delay your bleeding time. So don't do that. Trust me, I have involuntarily done it, and I have messed up a little bit the timing of my cycle, which has been always very, very precise. Then 48 hours, sorry. At 48 hours here now, we are looking at neuroregeneration as well. So 48 hours, just like 36, is great for metabolic health, but you're also looking at really helping with anxiety and emotional triggers, because now you're really going into a deeper healing. Okay, 48 hours is also very good if you're trying to heal a disease. If you are actually regularly fasting for 48 hours to achieve something, say you have cancer or so on and so on. 72 hours then is really, here we are in the peak or autophagy. We're going to go really deep into repair mode. 72 hours, it's the most that you can do at home without supervision, unless of course you have type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, or other ailments, but you can do this safely at home for 72 hours. Up to 5 days is generally safe to do at home, but over that you would do it with a medical doctor. Now, even 5 days, I honestly think that you should still see a doctor if you have issues with your kidneys, on top of the things I mentioned before. So it's really, really interesting to understand how fasting works, the times of fasting, but how it can be personalized to you. I know that online everything is about fasting works for everybody, and it doesn't. In fact, actually, if you have an autoimmune disease such as Hashimoto's, fasting is the worst idea. Okay, don't fast. So you can see that we have to optimize what we do. We have to approach it very carefully, and we have to personalize it, because we are very unique. Generally speaking, if a person is healthy, these approaches work. But if you are going through something very specific, then you need a specific approach too. I hope this was helpful. The guide will be on my website very shortly, so you can download it and just look at it. And I hope that it will help you too. Any question, ping me. I'm happy to support. Bye.